brothers and sisters in Jesus Christ. The three letters of John seem to have been all written about the same time, by the same person, and probably from Ephesus in Greece. Ephesus is very important in the church history and for our Christian faith, because there were two councils of the church in Ephesus. Famous council of 428 AD, which proclaimed Mary as Theotokos. Father John was recently visited that place. It was a great experience, I think. Also, in Greece, we can see many places. There, even the tomb of John, the apostle, is not far from Ephesus. The letters written in the time were suggested vary from 85 to 100 AD. Probably some of the disciples of John put together what intended to write. Today we have the reading of just 6 verses from the second letter, which is actually the shortest book in the whole New Testament. Today's first reading is in 2 parts. In the first part, the author congratulates the church following the true teaching of the apostles. The life of truth as we were commanded by the fathers. To love, says the elder, is to live according to Jesus' commandments, which can all be summed up in the one commandment: to live a life of love. Love, however, should not blind them to the truth. And that brings us to the second part of the reading. The author warns his church about those who are denying that Jesus Christ has come in the body. In other words, they're denying the true humanity of Jesus. In fact, that was a great controversy for 200-300 years, from 400 to 700 years. The controversy of the Arianism also belonged to the true humanity of Jesus. And in the end, the Council of Chalcedon described that one person in 2 natures, exactly. That's what the humanity of Jesus is particularly clearly defined in the Council of Chalcedon. The Gnostics taught that the Son of God did not come on human being, but that he temporarily came down upon the man Jesus between his baptism and his crucifixion. So the author gives us the power to love as he has loved and continues to love by pouring his Holy Spirit in our hearts. To love in this sense is to give of ourselves in the service of the Lord and his people. In the words of today's gospel reading, is to be prepared to lose our lives for others, rather than putting our efforts into preserving our lives at all costs. The gospel warns us against being so absorbed in the ordinary day-to-day activities of life that we neglect what is of ultimate importance. The reading speaks of the eating and drinking, buying and selling, planting and building, marrying wives and husbands. These activities and many other similar activities are the very stuff of life. They are vitally important. Life could not go on without them. They are so important that we may to see them as all that there is. Jesus reminds his listeners that in the time of Noah, people were all engaged in these activities when suddenly disaster struck, the flood came, and all these vitally important human activities seemed less important. On this basis, Jesus wants his contemporaries not to become so absorbed by these very human and necessary activities. Jesus is reminding us that we need to keep a proper sense of perspectives. The activities of life can be so absorbing and so wonderful in many ways that they can become an end in themselves. The gospel reading, Jesus declares that anyone who loses his life will keep it. By losing one's life, Jesus means giving one's life in love to others and to God present to us in others. This is what gives meaning to our life, our activities, and it is this quality of heart which will endure them, all else passes away. That's a real and clear perspective we have to nourish in our life, day-to-day life. As St. Paul says, love never ends. Love never ends because it is of God. It is a reflection of God's life, and God never ends. Friends, life per se tends naturally to growth, exuberance, fructification, and reproduction. But if nobled and hidden to be ambitiously used with exclusion, it becomes sterile and dies. This is why all the saints that have taken Jesus, who passionately lived for God and men as a model, have in many ways and generously submitted their lives to the service of God and their fellow men. Friends, in recent months, attacks on Christians in several parts of the world, Syria, you heard about Pakistan last week, the story of the lady who was condemned for 8 years and released, and even now she is in jail. And also the persecutions all over the world, including my own country in India. We may have shaken our faith, but the Holy Father, Pope Francis says, answer from our gospel today. Christians are ultimately hopeful, however, because at the end, Jesus makes a promise that is guarantee of victory. Whoever gives his life will be born again. This is a truth that we can rely on. The powerful witness of our brothers and sisters who lay down their lives for the faith and the witness to Christ shall not be in vain. Amen.